We talked about factoring, we talked about procurement, Raja talked about financing. Let's go to the actual procurement part and let's get an expert in talking about emerging trends in procurement and sourcing. Mr. Krishna Barad is a partner with BDO, India for International Trade, leading their indirect tax practice. He has over 27 years of experience in leading customs and international trade compliance, spent with various top-class MNCs. His expertise is customers integration, HS codes, STS, ECCN classification, and the list can go on, so I'll stop here. He is a notable speaker at many international events like Export Trade Compliance Summit in China. Mr. Krishna, where are you? All right, thank you. And your panel is in? All right, so I would like to say first something that the moderator introduces the panel and not me. So I just call the panel onto the stage and the moderator has the ability to either introduce or let them self-introduce. So just in case if any misunderstanding on introductions, let it be clear. Thank you so much on that. Vickram Srivastava, Vicky, where are you? Haven't seen you for a while. Sun Pharma is treating you very well. Akshay Rana, Global Head, Strategic Sourcing at Sterlite. Thank you, Akshay. Amol Kulkarni, VP, Contracts and Procurement, Think Gas Distribution. We need a lot of gas, guy. Amol, thanks. Sandeep Pratap, Global Procurement and RM Lead India, ASEAN at UPL, United Phosphorus. Thank you so much. And last but not the least, we did it very well in terms of gender diversity as well as function, Ms. Tannistha Ganguly. I hope I pronounced your name correct, Tannistha. Global Head, Warehousing Management and IT Delivery, Kimberly-Clark. Welcome to you. All right, Mr. Barad, your session is 45 minutes. That includes introductions and Q&A. Thank you very much.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, good afternoon to you, and I welcome you all for this, Celerity Supply Chain Summit. And our topic on this today's discussion is about emerging trends in the sourcing. And I have my panelist Vickram, then I have Akshay, then Tannistha, Amol, and Sandeep. So we will go with the discussion points, whatever discussions has happened until now, where with respect to the infrastructure and digitalization, and of course we are going to talk about the actual impact on the supply chain while we drive the sourcing and other functions to run the production as well as run the business at any industrial house, including the service providers as well as the manufacturers, importers, etc. So I just want to give some background. This pandemic, which has happened in last 2 years, and which has created lots of opportunities as well as challenges for every sector as well as the industry, and it has turned a global feature to think on all these aspects of sourcing, how to deal with the sourcing and the supply chain overall. So I just want to start the discussion. Before I start the discussion, I want each person to give some intro on his about his role as well as where he worked for and what is in 1 minute or so you can give quick intro so that the people who are there, they are aware about where are from you and what is your background.
Sure, thank you. I'll start.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, this is Vickram here. I am currently with Sun Pharma. I lead their planning function in the global supply chain, function overall. Happy to be here. I'll bring in the pharma perspective, and procurement and pharma are very close to each other. We have our own sets of challenges, so I'll try and bring out that. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. So myself Akshay Rana. So I am currently handling the strategic sourcing, particularly for the cable business for Sterlite Technologies. And when we say globes, just to brief about the Sterlite, then the Sterlite is basically whatever the network you are getting, that is due to the Sterlite. So we are one of the major manufacturer of the optical fiber and the optical fiber cables. So we are basically from silica to software. And currently I'm handling 12 manufacturing units across the globe, US, Italy, Brazil, and China and India. Thank you.
Namaskar and hello to everyone. I'm Tannistha. I'm working for Kimberly-Clark. We are a CPG company, and I lead the global warehouse management, IT delivery. I have spent almost 10 years now in CPG and have played various roles in the IT delivery part of it, or IT part of CPG, be it engineering, procurement, and now latest warehouse management. So I'll try to bring in the digitization aspect to how digitization is working in the procurement area, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. Myself, Amol Kulkarni. I am working with Think Gas Distribution Private Limited. It's a city gas distribution company, and majority of our areas are in north of India. So basically, first of all, I am very much thankful to Celerity for giving the opportunity to come back to and visit to Mumbai and meeting all of you in person after this pandemic. I have worked in Mumbai for almost 15 years, and every time I visit Mumbai, it's a pleasure trip for me. So thank you for that. I have almost 20 plus years of experience in procurement and supply chain function, and currently with oil and gas, energy sector, the city gas distribution sector, there is a typical cycle of demand shock going on. Because of the government policies, there is the boost in city gas distribution. We have our own challenges, set of challenges for this sector, and which are multiplied by the environmental factors like pandemic, the Ukraine war. So multiple complexities are involved in the procurement cycle. So I'll be bringing out some of these challenges and how we are mitigating those. That's it. Thank you.
Please.
Hello. Am I audible? Yeah, thanks. I'm Sandeep Pratap. I'm working with UPL Limited, and UPL is one of the largest agrochemical company. We make pesticides, and I have been working with them from last 8 years. Mainly I'm into procurement and supply chain. I have worked in various industry before coming to UPL, in retail, in foods, and also in engineering. What I'll be contributing today will be, I have done 2 digital transformation projects, which I'll be able to speak. And currently I'm looking after raw material procurement for Asia Pacific region for UPL. And as well as I have another role, which is a very interesting role, which is I'm global owner of procurement data. I'll be bringing that perspective to the discussion today, apart from my procurement experience. Thank you.
Okay, so I think, with this quick intro, I just want to, take the first question. Since this pandemic taught us about health, well-being, as well as this most supported sector was the pharma sector, and probably I want to go to Vickram on the first question. What all are the key aspects of the sourcing when you choose your supplier, as well as the country of sourcing, including how you look at the logistics and the packing requirements or the compliances when we source the pharma ingredients or API. So over to you. Just can you elaborate on these points?
Thank you so much. And I think, it's a good start. I mean, because like I was saying in my introduction also, pharma and procurement, have a love-hate relationship, I mean, supply chain executives in pharma always complain about, how do we source from, where do we source from? And your questions, Krish, touch base upon the geographies from where we can source and the vendors from where we can source. So, I mean, just to give you guys a background of what pharma sourcing today entails is, currently, so to speak, India is the pharmacy to the world, we are making almost about 40-45% of the generic drugs which are consumed globally, Unfortunately, right now, 60 to 65% of my active ingredients are being sourced from outside India, and a majority of it is coming from one geography, China. China is the factory to the world in a lot of, other industries. And so is in pharma, in actives, in base chemicals, and key starting materials. Because, and this has happened over the last probably 10, 15 years. Pharma supply chains are, any which ways like elephants, they move slow. So what China has done over the last 2 decades, they have done a complete reversal of how the sourcing happens in the industry across, So to take one part of your question, we are heavily dependent on, outsourcing a lot of our key actives and KSMs and chemicals, which go into manufacturing of, generic drugs. And B, a lot of it is coming from one specific geography. And we all know what happened during the pandemic was everything came to a grinding halt, And the government of India also at that point of time realized that we are very heavily dependent on a lot of these sourcing elements. So what really has happened now, there are a lot of PLIs, production linked incentives that the government of India has come out with. They have started to incentivize people to set up, vendors and suppliers to set up manufacturing units in India so that we can start sourcing locally. So a lot of it, globalization, which we used to hear, is now turning into localization or deglobalization, But like I said, pharma is heavily regulated and very slow in terms of, any changes. So it's not going to happen overnight, but the trend has definitely started because, even if I talk about pre-pandemic, probably, 30 to 40% of the Fortune 500 companies were already looking at China plus strategy of sourcing, So it's not that I will give all credits to Corona and COVID that, people have started looking at it. But yeah, there is a lot more intent. And I think in the panel, we have people who will talk about digitization and how we can bring end-to-end visibility across our vendors. So it's not just about where I'm sourcing from, who is my vendor. It's also about how I can partner with them, how I can bring that visibility into the supply chain. And with that, probably, I'll hand over to...
Yeah, I will ask the next question. So, Akshay, you are from, cable industry, or, you are from one of the telecom sector. And as we see that there is an announcement, by the government to, go for the 5G, and already auctions has been, done. Now, I just want to see, seek your inputs. What should be the future sourcing strategy to, reduce the risk for, the supply chain, and how you will, go about, the innovation or the cost saving opportunities while, we want to continue the business or, newer technologies, etc. So maybe you can give some inputs on that. Yeah.
So as Vickram told about the COVID, so if we say in last 3 years, we have across the globe, we have seen the 3 major events. One was the COVID. Between the COVID itself, there was a winter storm in US, which impacted the complete industry. Then there was the Suez Canal issue. Post that, now Russia-Ukraine war. So if I say, as a Sterlite, we are hugely dependent on the crude. And the crude prices, the way it have gone up, have increased our input cost, whereas the customer is not coming back to give that cost. Because we have a long-term contract signed and all is in place. So we started thinking that how to do the things right, on the right time. So we first started benchmarking. That was the first activity as a future supply chain what we started. That benchmarking, not only the raw materials, but also the cable cost that what our competitors are supplying into the market. Second was the market intelligence. So again, I will leave that for the digitization part, but market intelligence and AI, we started using it, from which we are getting right now a complete huge data, alerts. That was the second. Most important thing what we have done was we adopted a theory to go suppliers. So as a customer, we never talk to the supplier of our supplier. So we started doing that. So basically, we backward integrated the supply chain. We particularly use polymers. So a case study or a live example is that we use polymers, and we signed the MOU, we started in-house compounding, we started getting the materials at our own cost, we started negotiation with the supplier, so bringing in our panel into it, that yes, this is material coming to the Sterlite, so cost should come down. Third major was the value creation. that irrespective of the expensive material what we are buying, how the cost can be reduced. So it is not necessary that it have to be on the base cost price. So it can be in form of scrap, it can be in form of the efficiency improvement. So that we have done. So that was the one of the benefit. And then one of the most important thing in the current sourcing strategy is a localization, what Vickram told about. So earlier we used to import around 70% of the raw material. Right now we are just importing 38 to 40%, which again we are bringing it down. So that is something which as a future we should do and to mitigate the risk. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that. And I just want to go to Sandeep for next question. I will come to you for the digitalization because digitalization has the lots of facets. So Sandeep, probably I just want to understand or hear from you. He has said that they have done the localization. So what is the changing and adopting the new change because of the pandemic? How you have reacted to the disruption in the supply chain and the sourcing? So can you just give some insight on that? How you managed your supply chain during this disruption of the COVID and its impact?
Thanks, Krishna. So as Vickram said about pharma supply chain and pharma procurement, and agrochemicals will be probably the closest industry from pharma because we share the same AIs, maybe not APIs, AIs, and we have very similar kind of regulation. And UPL being a global company, we have presence in more than 140 countries, and even manufacturing we are doing in more than 20 countries across the globe. It is very difficult to have globalization and localization things. But what we have done, we have this paradox, globalization, localization paradox is very simple when you are working in one or limited geographies. But it's very difficult when you are working in multiple geography where you have to buy from, you have to standardize your number of suppliers. You want to reduce your number of suppliers to few geographies. At the same time, you want to be closer to your supply chain manufacturing location for your supplier because of the logistics, as the gentleman said there about what happened in Suez Canal, what happened in shipping containers. Some of them was due to COVID, but some of them were, it was a problem in our supply chain, global supply chain, which just got exposed due to COVID. What we have done, we have, even before COVID, we have started a project called Project Independence, which was very similar to what industry is calling as China Plus One. And we, during the pandemic, we are the 5th largest company in agrochemical industry, and we were the one which got least affected because we were the least dependence on China, and we were dependent on other countries. So we have started developing supply base in each regions, and we are working on a hybrid model where we make certain part of APIs at China and India, and then the formulation very close to market. And that is something which is helping us because you can be, you can delay the differentiation. Delaying differentiation, this is not only a procurement strategy, this is more of go-to-market strategy, but procurement play a very, very important role in this delaying differentiation strategy. So that is something we have adopted. We will talk about the digital transformation part once we'll discuss. There is another part which we have just started, which is the data part. And when I talk about data, procurement, marketing data is a lot, there has been a lot of work in marketing data, but frankly speaking, in many organizations, procurement data is at a very, very nascent stage. People think that just creating vendor codes and material codes does the work. And especially in global organization, you find that there are duplicate codes in different geographies, and you have high inventory of same item in one geography, say US, and you have scarcity of that material in Asia Pacific, and you are air freighting it from supplier. And such kind of things can be leveraged once you go for data. This is the very basic where you leverage transactional and master data. You have to do cleaning. And the second thing is knowing your suppliers. So the gentleman from VFIN was talking about tier 1 supplier, tier 11 suppliers, and even Akshay was talking about leverage, knowing your tiers 2 supplier, tier 3 suppliers. So that is something we need to know, because disruption is happening at a very, very high speed. And once disruption is happening at high speed, sometimes we don't know what is going. So you may see a news that, okay, there is a Ukraine war, but I might not have a tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier from Ukraine, but I may have a tier 3 supplier. So knowing your entire chain of suppliers is very important. That is something which we need to do. So that's all, I guess. My 3 minutes are over. And
Okay, thanks
please,
Sandeep for that.
not interrupting me.
Sorry, yeah. Now I have another, panelist. I just want to ask Amol. You are from, the gas sector, which is also again a crucial sector. Now, from the pandemic, we have seen that, how to, manage the supplier and relationship and manage the supply chain risk. What are the strategies you, kind of deployed, or what, industry can think how to, manage the supplier relationship as well as the risk of, the supply chain overall?
Thank you for this question. In fact, I would just start where Sandeep left, that your suppliers, you have suppliers, you have a complete supply chain, wherein you may not be having the first level supplier or suppliers, or here suppliers. You don't have that visibility, first thing. Second thing is, when you have, when you're dealing with your first supplier, you're taking into factor what are the current environmental factors, what could go wrong, and based on that you take certain decisions. And all of a sudden it is a surprise to you that because of a Ukraine war, your Indian supplier is not delivering, and your management fails to understand that what is the relation, because war is happening there somewhere in Ukraine, and you are giving the reasons that your Indian supplier is not giving the deliveries. It happened in our case. So one typical example is that we are putting up the infrastructure for CNG distribution. So we require this dispensers. All the suppliers are based out of India. Their suppliers are also based out of India, but they are importing the steel tubings from China. Till this point, it was okay. But the China is importing the specific grade of steel, not the entire steel, only the molybdenum which is required in that steel from Ukraine. And we were in dark. Nobody had thought that this will be the link which would be there and which may cause trouble to you. So when we learned this, then we started exploring what are the other options available. Frankly speaking, there were no other options available. We had to suffer for that particular period, but somehow this molybdenum restoration, everything, China has developed something, and based on that, we are getting our products done. In India, we could not do anything on this. So this gives one clear aspect of supply chain, is that your supply chain is as strong as the weakest link of that chain. So you have to first identify what are the links into the complete supply chain, and then you have to make the strong of what is the weakest link. So when we come to, hello, yeah. When we come to the weakest link, most ignored aspect of the supply chain is the supplier. So most of the times, nobody gives any attention to what are his problems, what financial troubles he is seeking or what he is facing. We are only concerned about when my material will come. So simply, मुझे मत बताओ यार मेरा material कब आएगा. So this happens typically in the industry, and because of this pandemic, in fact, there is the opportunity. So every cloud has the silver lining. So this pandemic has given us the opportunity to relook at what is the importance of the supplier. In fact, when I started my career, it was just a support function. Procurement was a support function that time. Then things evolved procurement was being considered as a line function. It is as important as projects, it is as important as production. So it has developed as a line function. But this pandemic, it has emerged that complete supply chain is the backbone of the business. And management has also recognized this. And this is a very good thing for all supply chain professionals. So whatever support is required to manage your supplier relationship, which was not there previously, now you have that. So with this, you definitely have to bet on the supplier relationships. What strategy we adapted is that not every supplier you need to develop the relation. Let us be very frank. So what we have done is we have mapped all our spend on one axis and all our supplier risks on another axis. We have developed 4 quadrants. This is a typical Kraljic model. And at the upper right quadrant, which is high risk, high spend, that we have considered for our first attack. And therein we have started developing the relationship. Therein we have gone into the further details of supplier, or even to that supplier also. So that visibility we have developed. See, if you go on doing everything at a time, it is not possible. Even if you have the data, most of the times it is not available. But even if you have, doing everything at a time, it is not possible. To develop the relationship with your key suppliers and their key suppliers is the key. And that's what we have done. And that has yielded us the results. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Amol, with that more inputs on that. So I just want to discuss now or take it to Tannistha, because whenever we talk about sourcing or procurement, typically every organization has the ERP or other IT systems. But definitely when we talk about sourcing or the procurement, we have lots of other external players. I will just name few of them. You have the supplier, he has different system. Then we have logistic service providers. Then we have custom broker. Then we have bankers, and then transporters, and few other players are there. And wherein each company or each player will also will be on the different digital platform. So I just want to come to you, Tannistha, that how sourcing and the procurement can reap the benefit of digital transformation in any organization, and if at all, what Kimberly-Clark has done to drive the supply chain on the digital arena. So we would like to hear from you with the practical inputs on those aspects. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. When you talk about digitization, whether it is the whole of supply chain or whether it is just procurement, there's a lot to talk. And as I was listening to all of you and my co-panelists, there are so many things that I could relate to. And one point that kept coming up that I thought was a common link to all of you was the supply risk management. I think that is one area which, irrespective of what industry, every procurement team is focusing today. I'm not saying that they weren't focusing earlier, but I think with COVID, the focus has just become renewed, I would say. The focus has been renewed here. And how does digitization help in your supplier risk management? When I look at the whole procurement processes, doing or implementing a solution in just one area, let's say I'm just trying to make my P2P very standardized and very smooth, but I'm not looking into the supplier risk management area, or I'm not talking about the sourcing area. The trend, or what I have seen commonly in many companies, is that systems or digitization efforts and investments are put in those silos. And that is where the benefit of a digital system is not really, it's not really achieved. You spend a lot, you don't normally see a quick benefit or an ROI coming out of it. And most of the challenges are either not 100% met or met with 50% of your satisfaction. So one of the key focus that at Kimberly-Clark we have tried to do is we want to have, we looked at an end-to-end procurement, how we were. And this is something we started, I think, in 2020. Or maybe, late 2019 and 2020. And we spent a good amount of time with external consultants and external partners to see where we were having gaps, in the procurement, in the whole procurement landscape. And we realized that we have a landscape. We talk about ERP. Yes, we have our ERP system, which is the backbone. But in procurement, we had multiple systems, starting from big names like Ariba's to small Excel-based systems, let me call it that way,
Okay.
right, which is catering to one procurement team sitting in one mill in one part of the US. And they will not move out because they've been doing it for the last X
Many
number of
years,
years.
yes.
So this process we started, and the biggest investment we've done is to really move out of that scattered landscape and have one platform. So we went to a platform approach, single platform, or at the most we said we'll take it two. We wanted to do max two big platforms, and that's what we've done in Kimberly-Clark. So although we have S4, we have the SAP, which is which is enterprise, anyways ERP, and we worked with one of the major IT vendors, so that we are able to really bring in the benefits of a single platform. The second part that we are really focusing on, and I think all the companies, irrespective of which sector, is the data. And Sandeep, you spoke about it. We are trying to ensure that the data flow within systems, and it's not just let's say my sourcing system to my ERP system, and just going to my invoicing or the finance system. Not just that. It's it really talks to all the systems, right? We gather data from within the company, but also supplier data from external sources. You mentioned, I think Amol also mentioned, that marketing has a lot of sources of data, and procurement may or may not have, which is slightly what I would disagree. There is a lot of data available even for procurement. And there are companies or third-party vendors who will provide you necessary data. The main challenge in the company as a procurement team is how do we build a strategy to use that data, right? And especially to the, when you talk about your tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, how do you use that data to bring in that insights or help in your decision making? From a digitization perspective, you come to me, when the procurement team comes to me with a requirement, I can give a tool, I can suggest a tool. But how do you want to, what do you want out of that tool or the digitization project is something that as a business we need to first formalize, right? So,
Right. Yeah, so maybe I just want to take some more points on for the sourcing, any sourcing executive who does the procurement from any country. So there are key aspects which I just want to highlight, or maybe I will just give as an input. One is that whenever I am importing from a country, if I am selecting a country, so whether there are any sanctions are available, like today the era of sanction is going on. As we know, Ukraine war resulted into sanctions on Russia. Same thing is going on the chip now, semiconductors. So US has put some sanctions, or they are thinking about putting the sanctions on China. So this is one aspect I just want to highlight, that whenever we are selecting the country, so we have to see the route, then the sanctions, as well as the free trade agreements, which is one of the key headlines in all of the newspapers nowadays. So India is getting into lots of free trade agreements with ASEAN countries and larger economies as well. So we recently concluded India UAE SEPA. We are into final discussions with UK, wherein the FTA will get concluded by Diwali. That's what the government is telling. and same goes with the Canada, Australia and few other economies. So, the another point which we want to highlight over here is that any sourcing executive, he need to see whatever products I am importing, procuring, whether there is any tax optimization opportunity is available for me as an executive. That is one thing which I just want to highlight. And another thing, whenever we are sourcing the goods, there are the HS codes or the HSN code or the harmonious system of nomenclature. So, we need to see in India, we have DGFT which has laid down 3 categories of the procurement or the imports permissions. So, like I will just highlight free to import, which is one category, which is largely 90% goods fall in that. Some goods are restricted, which are for the which we need the permissions, like environment sensitive items or any other drone kind of technologies or the defense equipments. And one category which is with respect to the environment etc., which is prohibited. We can't, like livestock or any other items, we can't import. So, these are some of the things which I thought I will add from my side. And one more thing, lots of ease of doing business initiatives as being taken from the government of India side through the customs department, and especially the digitalization when we spoke with Tannistha. So, government is ahead of the industry in lots of digital initiatives. So, customs processes almost 100% it is on digital platform. All licensing from the Director General of Foreign Trade as well as the GST activities are all on platform of the digital platform. Now, the next level what the government is doing is merging with these all departments into a single data platform to take out the data for the further analytics and do the trade balance etc., etc. So, these are some of the points which I thought I will highlight, and I just want to have final comments on you from everyone. What is that the next move for you as an individual in the organization? What is that next you are thinking to in the sourcing and the procurement side? Any new initiative or any final comment?
Well, the new initiative, what I feel, in today's VUCA world, volatile, uncertain world. I mean, he was mentioning about sourcing some material from, Ukraine for your, for your finished goods, for your raw material. So a simple thing like even, I have a vendor based in Germany, and this is a live case I can just share. I mean, I'm not able to source that material because gas supplies from Russia has been stopped to Germany. Is not able to run its factory. So how do you source for that? How do you plan for that? So that's the VUCA world we are living in. And my only takeaway here is, I mean, when we talk about disruptions in supply chain, we talk about, collaborating with our vendors. So I want to call out over here, there are 3 things that we can do as supply chain executives. We can develop an alternate vendor, we can build more inventory, or collaborate further with our, suppliers. So, I mean, developing a new vendor in pharma is very difficult, long process, expensive. And in many cases, we don't even have an alternate vendor. You have a single source. Making more inventory is not really healthy for supply chain. So, what it leaves us on the table for us is doing conscious collaboration with our suppliers, making them your business partners, not just treating them as suppliers anymore. They are your business partners. Talk about visibility. Tannistha talked about, how digitization can help build that visibility. You talked about suppliers. So that kind of visibility, we are talking about traditional S&OP cycles moving into integrated business planning, So once my supply chain, once my demand is sensed from my sales and marketing end, that I am going to get into, major orders or some particular molecule is going to go into a blockbuster, sales, how that demand sense can, travel upstream to my supplier so that he can prepare for the right raw material. So that in my mind is the key takeaway for me, which I want to share with the group over here, is that we need to start treating our suppliers as our business partners and do conscious collaboration.
So, I think in the paucity of time, I just want to take some questions from the audience because we have 5 minutes left now. So, I think if anyone has any further high level immediate comment, yes, please go ahead. Akshay.
Just wanted to build on what Vickram said, that it's really a VUCA world, that volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and it is going to be there. So whenever we are inducting a new supplier or developing any indigenous supplier in support of any foreign supplier, what we are looking now is definitely we are looking at the capabilities, but more of that is what we are looking is capability of that supplier. It is very difficult to assess that. If you ask me how you are going to assess, currently I don't have answer, but you have to judge that what is the capability. There will be this uncertainties into the market, environmental things will be there. One thing is that environmental sustainability, governance, ESG goals of the suppliers, that we can look at it, eco-friendliness, and how he is going to deal with carbon zero thing. So all these things we are looking at, but moreover that is how he is coping with the changes, how he is coping with the challenges. So what is his attitude, what is his system to cope up with the changes? So that is more important nowadays. So once we have that, then definitely we can support the supplier, we can make him a business partner, and then business can grow. Thank you.
I'll just add one line.
Yeah. Please, please.
So, the rate of change of technology and world is very, very high, and it is multiple time higher than what it used to be earlier in all the fields. And just like that in procurement also, it is very, very high. We as procurement professional need to be very, very agile and very, very agile and responding to changes very, very fast. That is something which we need to do in future.
Yeah, so I think we can take some questions. Please,
Sure,
Sanjay.
very well summary. Question? Yeah, last, yes, we give preference to gender today. Yeah. Just kidding. Can somebody get the mic towards the end? Right all the way towards the end. Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Am I audible? Just
Sure,
checking.
you
Okay.
are, please.
So we talk about supplier relationship now and then, that yes, we need to consider our supplier as partners more than suppliers. But I just wanted to understand from your side what we need to do from procurement that supplier really feels that he is considered as a partner, not just a supplier. During discussion, we say, yes, you are our partner, but that's not sufficient enough. We need to do something, right? So what exactly we need to do?
Very good question.
So I'll explain what we have done on this thing. You may please add on. See, what is supplier's concern? Major concern of supplier is the payment and the transparent information. So if you give him transparent information, timely decision and payment, he is happy. So built in that. So what we have done is we had built in a digital invoice management system. We have taken help of IT team, and every supplier has to put in their bills into this system, and they will have complete visibility till the payment. So that has built the confidence in our suppliers, in our company, because ours is a new company. It's just 4-year-old company. So we have to market ourselves to suppliers.
Thank you.
That is one part.
So, just adding into Amol, the major thing is the governance with the supplier. Till the time you don't know their issues, you can't resolve them, and they will not trust you. So to bring in the trust in the supplier is most important is the contract governance. Having a contract governance in place where you listen to their concern, sit along with your CFT to get it resolved, and come back to them. Whether you can resolve it or not resolve it, it can be related to product quality, delivery, because the ideas what a supplier can give you as even a sourcing or procurement heads, we can't think of that idea. Because basic idea for any reduction, value creation, that always comes from a supplier. So that is the reason that one of the thing is that you need to do a governance along with him.
I'll just add one. Yeah, I'll just add one more line here. And this will be a very, very unpopular opinion. So all these things you have to do only if it is your strategic supplier. If it is a routine or leverage supplier, please stick to what you have learned in procurement. Take money out of it.
Correct.
Don't build relationship with a supplier where you don't need to.
Yeah,
See,
that's a
money is
comment.
there obviously, but again,
I said
along with the value
strategic
creation.
and leverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sandeep, you see the loss of hair with you is because of that, right? Because of the
But
experience.
very practical advice.
Very practical advice. Wonderful. Second question and the last question because we are standing between lunch. So please go ahead.
So I think the question I have, Tannistha will be able to address it. So Tannistha, the company that I work into, we also provide supply chain solutions. And the gaps that you addressed in the current solutions that you're using, we try to fill in those gaps. But we still see some reluctancy to the acceptance of it. The problem is that, till the time it takes a huge form in front of us, either it's impacting the revenues or it is coming down to the money part, it doesn't seem like to be a problem. Till the time my Excel formulas can solve this, I won't go for a solution now. So how would you like to address this? Like, when did you notice that, yes, we need to fill in these gaps? There is some problem with this.
This is a very common question that comes to us, not just from the procurement business teams, but any other business teams would also come back to us and say, what cost? How can you give this budget requirement? How can it be, right? So, the tendency, there are several factors that we need to address here in this question, right? To try, and the first thing that I don't want to do and I try not to do is trying to justify the cost and try to show a benefit via IT. Because it is impossible to say my IT tool will give you an ROI of some 100, 200 million, save you 200 million cost. IT tool will do that. I would rather not go that way. How I try to put the business case, how I would try to win over the business team, and that is, how is this going to help you save your time or your team's time rather than saving you any money? I try to avoid the money discussion there because we fail, IT team, we fail there. So how does a tool, your Excel is doing it, but how much time are you spending doing that Excel work? And tell me, you put in your data in that Excel and Zoom, the number is there, you'll go and tell your boss. But how much time you spend filling up those Excel cells with the data, and how many people you called? Iska aaj kitna payment kiya tha? How many people did you call? How many team members did you talk to get that 2,500 wahan pe dalna hai? How much time did you spend? And think about this, you come into office, you laptop nikala, you go to your tool, you have that exact number, you just tell your boss. So that's the way I would want to present the case of digitization rather than going into this discussion of ye benefit dega, wo benefit dega, and all that. I tend to not do that.
Charu, give a big hand to all the panelists. And please stay there because each one of you deserves an award. Tannistha gets 2 awards today because of gender diversity. Charu will announce that.
Tannistha does get 2, but not because of gender diversity. I'll come back and tell you why. So I would like to thank Tannistha. She's been a jury member for our 30 under 30 awards. She needs to leave early today to catch her flight back to Bangalore. So therefore, the second felicitation was for spending time and taking time out to go through the nomination entries and coming up with the winning entries and the winners. Thanks so much, Tannistha.